Professor Dorothy Chen from Hong Kong University, a public sector academic, as well as a regulator. She has played multiple roles. Then we have Professor Kumarage. He should join our, okay. Professor Kumarage will kick off the session actually with the risk element. And then we have Dr. Dimantha De Silva, who was involved in the master plan. So we got quite a lot of experts on this panel. So let me now hand over to Gaini. Okay. So we have time till 1 o'clock. So 2 hours.
Should I wait until the others
No,
come?
no.
Yeah.
You can go ahead. Yeah. Hi.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we are waiting for Namali. Yeah. Namali is here. Leave your stuff and come. Yeah, 2 minutes gone already.
Railways. Safe, reliable, and comfortable transportation.
No,
Railways are being called on to play a greater role in transportation around the world. Hitachi operates globally as a total railway system integrator, from building rolling stock to supplying traffic management systems. Demand for railway services is growing due to rising environmental awareness and worsening traffic congestions. Driving this demand is railways' ability to be safe, clean, and efficient, both for city and intercity transportation.
車両、電気品、運行管理システム、信号、トータルをですね、作れる会社だということですね。その全てをやっているということで、トータルシステムインテグレーターというところでですね、交通システムの発展に寄与できるんじゃないかというところが一番の特徴だと思います。
Rolling stock built by Hitachi includes Shinkansen bullet trains, express trains, commuter trains, and monorails. One popular category in Japan and overseas is the rolling stock that Hitachi builds from aluminum, based on its A-train concept. Their lightweight construction saves energy and reduces wear and tear on infrastructure. They are highly economical and designed for easy recycling. Hitachi has also developed a hybrid drive system in collaboration with East Japan Railway Company that was the first in the world to enter commercial operation. Hitachi boasts world-leading technologies for making inverters smaller and lighter. To support transport management and control, Hitachi develops traffic management and signaling systems. In addition to these operation systems, Hitachi also supplies a diverse range of information services, including seat reservation systems and IC card ticketing systems. This extensive involvement in developing products and systems also includes a regenerative energy storage system that recovers electric power during braking. As a total railway system integrator, Hitachi is actively seeking to extend its activities throughout the world. In the UK, Hitachi won the contract to manufacture the Class 395 rolling stock that entered service in 2009. The contract includes maintenance of the rolling stock. In 2012, Hitachi again won a major contract to supply high-speed rolling stock to the UK, this time for the Intercity Express program. The associated maintenance contract will run for 27.5 years.
The IEP project is the delivery of 122 trains to the UK network. The next steps for the IEP program are we are completing the design of the trains at this moment in Kasada Works in Japan. In the UK, we also have a very important task at the moment, which is the construction of the new railway manufacturing centre in the north east of England.
交通システムの事業はですね、国内それから海外両方見据えてやってます。今後、欧州、それから新興国、それから中国ですね、ブラジルですとかインドですとか、そういったところも視野に入れて世界にですね、我々のビジネスを進めていきたいと考えています。
Through its global operations and by developing railway systems that are safer, more reliable, and more comfortable, Hitachi is helping ensure a bright future for railways.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session on transport. And we call this Building an Adaptive, Demand-Supply Optimized and Service-Oriented Public Transport Network. As we all know, our blood circulation, if it stops in our body, you know what will happen to us. Similarly, if transportation is dysfunctional, the city will die. So we are going to learn that. What are the things that we can learn from this eminent panel and the 5 speakers and the panel as to how we can make Colombo or the megapolis alive and make it really vibrant. To start off the session, I would invite the first speaker, Professor Amal Kumarage, Senior Professor from the University of Moratuwa Transport and Logistics Department. He needs no introduction. I'll straight away ask him to take stage. Over to you, Professor. And you have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Believe there's a presentation. Okay, we're on. Good morning to everybody. My task is to brief you or discuss or start the discussion on the viability of transportation planning and how we can mitigate any possible infrastructure investment risks that may arise in the future. Now, Sri Lanka and particularly Colombo had one of Asia's best urban transportation systems in the late 1950s and dating well into the 1960s. We had tram cars, trolley buses, one of the best urban commuter railways, one of the best working bus systems, and we had even rickshaws and taxis and all of that. And incidentally, at that time, Sri Lanka had the second best economy in Asia as well, second only to Japan. But since then, we have lost ground in both. And why I'm saying that is no country can actually develop and maintain an economic momentum unless its transport works equally well. And if we want to climb the ladder in terms of economic prosperity, then getting the transport right is absolutely important. So we need transport not only for the Western province, but for the entire country, and we should not forget that. If we do, in fact, have a big gap between the provinces and Colombo, Colombo will get all kinds of unnecessary pressure where the infrastructure will not be able to keep pace. So therefore, a balanced development is needed. We should not forget the requirements of other urban centers in the country, the interurban transport, and so on. However, there is an absolute urgency to revitalize and reposition the transportation infrastructure and services in the megapolis or the Western province area to align it to the proposed economic development plan. Now, in terms of current issues, particularly this session is looking at public transport, how we can position public transport to achieve this. We have, as everybody would agree, a qualitatively lagging public transport network. However, one must say that particularly during the war years, the public transportation system was under severe pressure, particularly from lack of investment. And I think we must record appreciation to the people who actually kept the public transport system alive and viable, and which still carries 50 to 60% of the people. And compared to many of the public transport systems in our part of the world, we are still providing a fairly decent service. Not only that, we can today talk about improving public transport because the networks are still there, the institutions are still there, and we can easily mobilize them. However, after the war, it was the belief that motorization would be the provision of the transport future. We had large investment in roads and expressways, and people were hopeful that with all the excitement about flyovers, elevated expressways, and one-way systems, etc., that we could build our way out of congestion, as many countries and cities have thought so in the past. However, that was short-lived when people realized that it's not only the first 2-3 deciles of the income, but everybody else also can now own and use a motor vehicle. And now roads are congested, and people now reluctantly talk about public transport future. People still want roads, people still want to drive their vehicles, and I think that's a mindset that needs to change. And as many countries have proven, we have a task ahead to change the mindset of the people that public transport is actually a better form of transport. Now, if you look at measuring success, and I think we need to start talking about measuring transportation projects. Very often we measure the success of a transport project by the output we see. We build a road, we build an expressway, we build ports, and so on. And people are gullible enough in many parts of the world to think that if you have an output, a physical thing, then you have achieved the desire. No, transport is about outcomes. It's not about building infrastructure, it's about what you provide the people, the mobility. Your trip lengths must decrease, your convenience must increase, and what you want in terms of mobility must be met. Increasingly, people don't care what mode they use. We talk about seamless transport, we talk about integrated transport, and the walls of the technologies are breaking down, particularly thanks to the ICT linkages that are coming. So therefore, we need to position ourselves, not talking so much about this technology or that technology, but what contributes to what people want. Secondly, we must have operational success. Not only the revenue, the fare box, but in terms of how many people can afford to use it, how many people will have access to it, and making transportation available to everybody. And this is, to me, the success that we have. It doesn't matter whether you get PPP or government funds, but finally, you need to have that model. And also, we talked about in the previous session, transport is an important catalyst for creating livable environments. And Colombo has potential to be something unique. And transport will either create it or not make it happen. Do we want elevated structures? Do we want public spaces? Cities around the world have made important decisions and then lived to either benefit or suffer by them. And I think that discussion is yet to start. What kind of public transportation structures, transport structures do we want? Now, having reviewed the megapolis plan, I think it is an exciting plan. It is a plan that hopefully will come to fruition over the years. But as most plans, it needs to have an evolutionary process. No plan is perfect when it starts, particularly one that is 20 years, which is based on technologies that are rapidly changing, social needs, economic needs, even political positions that are invariably going to change over this next 20 years, maybe even in the next 1 or 5 years. So therefore, how robust is this? How solid on a foundation is this? Early decisions have always been important. Later, if you make the wrong decisions, therefore, you may have a lot of problems. One of the big problems that many countries have in transport is this silo-based approach, where we think, okay, this is the technology. And I think we need to break out of that. It's not about LRT or buses or railways. It's about what provides the better connections, the better cost, what can be provided at the time we need it, and so on. So therefore, if we can have, for example, the LRT has been proposed, a modern system which will cost us 5 billion rupees a kilometer for 75 kilometers, that's 400 billion rupees. That's a lot of money. The Megapolis revised plan shows that 7% of the people will use it by 2035, probably about 2% when it starts off. Now, is this the kind of technology we need to kick off with? We have 50% currently on buses. Isn't this the approach we should take? And I think we need to look at the two options and see what is the more pragmatic approach to take. We need to have integrated systems. I hear of expressways, elevated expressways being built, where actually no feasibility had been done other than for just what goes on top of the expressway. See, a road network is a system. I call it a system of systems. And we need to look at any transport intervention vis-a-vis what happens to the entirety. For example, even if you take any elevated structure, you need another mode to get there. Even with LRT, 60% of the people who will come to LRT will need another access mode. So therefore, we have to look at how the cost and the benefits are interpreted. Secondly, we need honest evaluations. And I'd say honest evaluations. I think this kind of ambitious, rapid plan can only be built on facts. It cannot be steamrolled. It cannot be pushed from down. It cannot say we don't want to listen to criticisms, well-meaning criticisms, or diversity in opinions. If we want to go this journey, there must be a willingness to consider all options. For example, one of the problems that we see in infrastructure investment is when baskets of projects are put in and evaluated. You put LRT, elevated roads, buses, trains, and say by 2020, you have this. In there are good eggs and bad eggs. And therefore, technologically what you want gets put in there. No, we need to invest every single mode for its own benefit. We should not be driven by cost. We talk about how much you spend. No, we should be talking about what is the benefit. This is the size of the benefit that this project is going to get, not how much we are going to invest. Finally, we need to have good, transparent financial and procurement models, where the risk is shared. We have often seen in countries where private sector is invited, there is a pressure to put the risk back on the government. We need to have models and institutions, we talked about it earlier, that are able to safeguard the interest of the country while protecting the interest of the investor. We need to have benefits being equally distributed so that no party or no people are marginalized and excluded. Transport around Sri Lanka offers 1 million jobs, and at least 400,000 of that is in this area. And therefore, I think we need to actually be mindful of how it impacts these people. So finally, half a minute more, Lakshman. We have an ambitious plan for the short term. And quoting the report, the feasibility studies are to be completed in 6 months, and commenced in 6 months and completed within years. Why do you want to start studying 7 rapid transit systems? Even the advanced cities and so on have done one at a time and built one at a time. I failed to capture the logic of that. Feasibility study for railway electrification, yes, that was initiated many years ago, and ADB got involved during the 100-day government, and I think that should be promoted. Inland water transport service is very good. The key here is restructuring public bus services. There are about 8,000, we need about 4,500. How do you tackle this? I'm involved in the Sahasara concept, and it can be done, but it needs priority attention. And I think this is what will give us the first stage to actually go in and make a difference, to make Colombo a viable destination by 2020. If we don't get there, I think the future ahead will look bleak. And these are some of the recommendations. I leave you for a minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. I think we need to be outcome-driven. Thank you. I think we'll have more deliberation in the panel discussion. Now let me invite Dr. Dorothy Chang, Head of Center for Logistics and Transport, School of Professional and Continuing Education from University of Hong Kong. She will be talking about the Hong Kong experience, in particular, designing intelligent, viable, and sustainable mobility solutions. Over to you, Dorothy.
Thank you, Gaini. Good morning, everybody. Dr. Amal. I have been in Sri Lanka twice as international president of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and my first visit was hosted by the CILT here. 3 years ago, we were already talking about how we can deal with the development in Sri Lanka, because it is developing with great speed, and now I'm sure you all feel that you are dealing with an imminent problem, how to meet growth. Now, first of all, you have to understand the pain of growth. All right, here we are back to normal. So, it doesn't seem to flip. This one, okay, thank you. Right, now first of all, we have to understand the pain of growth. These slides actually show the typical congestion in Chinese cities today. There are also some alarming figures because of the rapid growth in China. You can see the figures: 1 million cars in 1994, 33 million in 2008. So what does that mean? The growth in the road length can never match this figure. And the result is serious congestion with an adverse impact on public transport. The speed of buses fell by 60% and service reliability by 88%. Now, they have come up with some drastic measures, including introducing quota for car registration, odd and even car plate, increase in vehicle tax. But these effects are not significant because private car growth continues. And Chinese cities are now deep into the problems that are created by achieving the scale of megacities. We were talking about megapolis this morning, without being able to manage the increasing environmental damage, immense traffic congestion, increasing pollution through vehicle emissions, and most provinces in China are not performing efficiently in the transport system. Now, with Sri Lanka's vision to develop as a megacity, and in the words of the Prime Minister, to make Sri Lanka the most competitive nation in the Indian Ocean, and to develop the island as an economic hub, we have to look at sustainable solutions and avoid the mistakes of other megacities. So do we have a panacea for all this? It actually started with city planning and comprehensive transport development. Now, quoting from my experience in Hong Kong, we started our first comprehensive transport study in 1976, when Hong Kong is experiencing rapid population growth and is coming out on being a fishing community. So we are now a financial center. Now, it is very much like your Western region megapolis planning, because it is based on a land use outline plan, and on that we overlaid our economic and transport plan to connect all these development areas by rail, roads, and tunnel. And we all know that infrastructure is costly and cannot be done overnight. But a city cannot come to a standstill. So we are talking about short-term, medium, and long-term solutions. So the policy objective set in the 1970s is to maintain mobility. It is still the word that we are using nowadays, mobility, and accessibility for the majority, and to meet the demand for both passengers and freight movement, because you have container ports, and you have commercial development, and you have residential growth. So we just made use of 3 principles back in the 1970s, and that is improving our road system, expansion and improving our public transport network, and more economic use of road space. Now, the first study in the 1970s resulted in 2 strategic developments which turned out to be right for Hong Kong, and that is to construct the mass transit railway and to restrain private car growth. Now, and I can assure you that as a transport officials in those days, we are not popular. Because on one hand, high taxation is imposed on private cars, but then the growth in public transport capacity and connectivity is only gradually building up. So moving into the future, we now have 5 betters that is to guide Hong Kong's development. Better integration of transport and land use, better use of railway as our backbone, better public transport services and facilities, better use of advanced technologies, and better environmental protection. Now, against this background, I would like to focus on 2 areas today: how to develop a sustainable transport system, and how technology, which you have heard earlier this morning, can help in demand management. I don't have to repeat sustainable transport. It's actually that we should be building a system that meets the basic access needs of individuals without damaging the environment, and that this sustainable transport system is affordable, provide choice, and offer support to a vibrant economy. That I'm sure that in this room, you'll be asking questions, can we do that? I'm saying that, yes, we can do this. Because to a large extent, Hong Kong has struggled for the past 30 years. It's not a short-term solution. And we have achieved the policy objective of promoting public transport as a sustainable transport development objective. Every day, 90% of our daily commuter trips are made on public transport. And out of this, of course, the mass transit railway is the biggest carrier. And we have an ambitious railway expansion plan. And the Mass Transit Corporation is actually started as a government-owned corporation to become a listed company and a railway giant which operate railways both locally and overseas. Now, the railway development plays a significant role in our urban renewal. Railway stations and new lines are planned to match new population and economic activities. The typical example is that when we build the new Hong Kong airport, we have a dedicated rail to the international airport. And now we are building a new express train to China, which will shorten an originally 1-hour journey to 18 minutes, which means we are linking 2 fastest-growing megacities in terms of minutes now. Now then, we talk about private and public sector cooperation. And what we did with our railway is that we make use of the RMP model, which is the property development right on top of railway stations and railway depots. Now, these properties include both residential and commercial properties, and they form an important source of funding in the construction of railway projects in Hong Kong. Now, to be brief, this shows that, on top of railway stations, we have, multi-level buildings. Hong Kong is a very densely populated place, and people lived in high-rise and in small units. Now, I must admit, we have a housing problem, but this is, of course, not the topic of this morning's discussion. And we have other public transport mode with buses, and we have minibuses. You can look at the buses. These are all ventilated, air-conditioned, because we do have very hot summers, and people will give up using public transport and use private cars if they are not ventilated. And the public light bus, which provide feeder services to the buses and also to the railway. Now, with all these public transport mode, what is our role? So the government role is to provide a level playing field and to develop the supporting infrastructure, such as roads, bus termini, and public transport interchanges. There's also a clear differentiation on the roles of different public transport mode, but the objective, and we hold tight to that objective, and that is to develop a people-centric public transport system. Now, our public transport modes are not subsidized. They are operated on a self-financed basis, and the principle is user paid. Now, coming to demand management, which is the other focus I have, it is inevitable that we will be talking about smart cities. You know, smart cities are becoming widespread around the world. Why? Because technology is already ever present in our personal lives. Technology has the ability to be applied on a larger scale and will have a beneficial role in society by providing us with timely information. So the concept of smart city is information communication technology, and that is ICT. You have heard about it this morning. So this is there. And Sri Lanka, as you're developing your megapolis, you must bear this in mind, because smart city would support sustainable economic development and high quality of life. Well, in Hong Kong, you know, day-to-day demand traffic management, we have traffic signals under the area traffic control system to improve traffic circulation. Rail and bus companies provide real-time information, and Transport Department actually have broadcast and allow you to access to the CCTV pictures so that before you leave home, you know where there could be serious congestion. Technology is also helping us because in places like London, you can borrow bicycles using smart cards, and this gives you the last mile. It gives you the linkage that after you use the railway, you can actually get a bicycle and get to your point of destination. Other places are using smart signals that can turn green during emergencies to allow fire engines, and also streamlining of bus routes. Now, I think in real life, faced with severe traffic congestion, and while solutions can be developed with smart cities and maybe more road construction, but we have to be very careful with what we are doing in terms of managing demand. The growth of private car in the Chinese cities is already a lesson to learn. They grow much faster than you can build roads. So some countries have been using, like Singapore, very successfully, electronic road pricing to price vehicles. As you drive your private car into a congested area, you have to pay because you did impose an economic cost. Congestion is a cost, and every vehicle using our road system, in terms of demand management, you have to bear this cost. So in some places, you have parking charges in town centers, and some car parks are built in the periphery of a town center so that you can park and ride. And this is a photo which I took in Tokyo, which is a newly constructed interchange in one of the very busy urban area. And I can see the investment that put in. You have cars and parking spaces on top of the railway station. And sometimes when congestions get very bad, in the 1970s, Hong Kong have tidal flow system. That is, in the morning peak hours, the traffic lanes are reversed in one direction, and in the evening in the other direction. But most importantly is that mass transit. We give priorities in forms of bus-only lane, bus-only right turns. This is very common. And on bigger scale, we have this BRT. Now, this is a picture of Guangzhou in China, and they spent 4 years in building up this bus rapid transit system, which is able to move 20,000 passengers per hour, and it's actually helped to shape the traffic arrangements in a very densely occupied city. Now, talking about development of cities, passengers, and freight, just some brief ideas, because goods delivery is a problem. If the goods vehicles choose to go into the town center and share and take up your road system and coinciding with your commuter peak, you have a problem. So smarter, modern logistic hub would help to organize deliveries by grouping and batching goods to reduce the use of road space and allow goods delivery to be organized in the off-peak hours, avoiding congestion. Now, modern technology through RFID, cloud access technology, variable devices can help in tracing and tracking goods, thereby avoiding lost and wrong delivery. The drones can also be used for online purchase deliveries, and this is one which is already done in China. They use drones to deliver goods to nearby colleges. And this morning, speaking on technology, autonomous vehicles are on the way. By 2035, there will be more than 54 million autonomous cars. This car will have an impact on city planning, as these cars do not need a driver, do not sleep, and do not need a parking space. So modern cities are all faced with common problems of rapid growth, increased congestion and pollution, and all these would cast worries on the development of sustainable megacities. Building the future is not an easy task, and I understand that even worse is overcoming the institutional barriers that prevent good decision-making. And this would be a great challenge, because this is what I've been faced with as a civil servant in the Transport Department in Hong Kong. But now we have overcome that, and we do have an efficient communication and decision-making system. So I hope speakers in this summit will help us all here to understand more that it is in everyone's interest, and not just those involved in planning and transport management, to work hand in hand to support a long-term vision of well-reasoned and progressive development. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. I think in the interest of time, I'll straight away move on to Ajay. Ajay Singh is a senior management, holding a senior management position, and as a director of SGI Consultants Private Limited. He has expertise in mass transit systems, and he has a lot of experience in managing the New York City Transit Authority. So we'll hear more from him during the panel discussion. And over to you, Ajay.
Thanks. Really appreciate that introduction. And before I start and before I begin, I'd like to thank Naina and Lakshmanan for inviting me here. And more importantly, I have this sign for Lakshman. So before you show it to me, I'm showing it to you, okay? So we get this out of the way.
Thank you. 15 minutes.
I know. You're a bad guy. Okay. I've heard a lot of things, and I've experienced this city. And for the record, to start with, I'm in love with this place. So it is a gorgeous place, it's a beautiful country, and you guys have an opportunity of a lifetime to make a difference. So hold on to it, grab it, make the difference, and like they say, if you make it, people will come. Integrated mobility and seamless connectivity. Things have changed. When we started, I'll use New York City Transit because I spent nearly 25 years there. When New York City Transit started in 1904, the founding fathers came up with a 4-track system. And it was privately owned up till 1956. So a lot of things that were started by the founding fathers when the population of New York City must have been less than 2 million were the reasons why New York City Transit is very successful today. So you will have debates internally, what to do, what not to do, but think big. Do not compromise on your thoughts, because mega projects have to be thought out in the large scale. And time is going to be the element that's going to decide, and history is going to say how good it is. And if you don't think big, you'll not be able to achieve the big goals that you've set out for yourself. Integrated mobility, all systems are going to talk to each other. It's going to be commuter bus, airways, heavy rail, bicycle, pedestrian, commuter rail, MRTS, waterways, everyone has to talk for itself. And who's going to make the decision on that is going to be the question. And the question here is, I can't read it. Can someone read what I've written here? Can anyone read this? Come on, guys. I'm not the only one speaking here. Anyone can read this? Customer? Okay. Well, I thought it was a typo. So we know first and foremost for any system that you build, whether you're opening a Walmart or IBM or Microsoft, you've got to define the customer. So who is the customer? This is the future. This is the customer. They are the people who are going to use the system. So we've got to understand what's happened in the past, we learn from it, but we've got to build for the future. And the customer is the generation that's coming after us. We have a saying in mass transit, I want the improvements to be made in my lifetime, but not in my backyard. So it is going to be made in their lifetime, and their backyard. So they take advantage of it. We talked about connectivity, and it is happening. Technology is overtaking us every minute. Brian in his presentation talked about the first industrial revolution. It took 70 years for the steam engine to get out from England and come to the subcontinent. Today, any changes that are made anywhere in the world comes here in minutes. You just download the app. So it's all about how connected you are on the app. So if you're connected, technology is here. So what we as a team are facing is how do we leapfrog what's coming and be there when the new technology kicks in. It's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be easy. Decisions have to be made. And I always say that decisions are made with whatever information you have at that time. And if the decision is made with that information, if it's a correct decision, Monday morning quarterbacking can always happen. It's always given that Monday morning quarterback, this can be done. But with that information, have you made the right decision? And you have to keep on making decisions. Dorothy talked about it. Hong Kong has it. All cities are having it. Command and control center, where you have everything feeding into a system. Nana today was talking about putting CCTVs, cameras, optimizing the signaling. All of it will come into the command and control center. Dorothy was talking about the signals turning green if there's an emergency. Yes, these things are happening. These are real time. If you have a breakdown in the middle of the highway, if you have a train system that's, suppose I have a mass transit, the LRT, I have a problem with that, I should be able to push my buses there, pick up people and move them. At the end of the day, two things matter to any economy. If I can move my people and if I can move my freight at a faster and more cost-effective way, I win. The command center in any city or any country is going to be the vehicle that's going to make this happen. Coming back to why I've got this picture here. And did you guys see the Ceylon tea there? Yeah? All the kids, and this is if you go to New York, Washington, San Francisco, and I talk to my children, everyone is distracted with this. The conversation in the morning starts with this, ends with this. None of the kids want to drive anymore. So this device also is a distraction and also is a tool. They get real-time information what mode to take. So the choices of mode is going to be based on the real-time information that's flowing into the device. Real-time information about everything. Travel times, crowdedness in buses, arrival times of buses, queue lengths at junctions, parking availability, and this is real-time information. There's an app that we use all the time in the US called Waze. Waze is basically an app where everyone gets together and gives you real-time information of where the cops are hiding when you're speeding. Okay? So if I'm driving, my wife is on Waze, say, hey, cop, and it says it verbally, cop 1 mile away, half a mile away, 0.3 miles away. And I'm crossing the place and I see no cop. I say, where's the cop hiding? And you see him behind the bushes in a car sitting to get you. So, these real-time information is happening. You've got to accept it, and the design of the LRT and the megapolis will take this into account. It is real. And now I'm going to switch on to the New York region. I had a lot of questions in the last panel I was there, so I'm going to answer a lot of them today. New York region, again, is three different states. It's Connecticut, it's New Jersey, and it's Washington, D.C. New York City and New Jersey. 3 states who have their own elected officials. There's a lot of discussion in the morning about politics. Politics is everywhere, and politics is always local. So New Jersey senator, New Jersey assemblyman, he's worried about his votes. He doesn't care how much time it takes you to go to the city. He doesn't. And because the city guys are not going to vote for him. So in order to get out of this mess that we were in, they decided to form the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. So all the ports, the bridges connecting the states, the airports, all of them are owned by an entity which is co-shared by New York and New Jersey. There's a question on who owned World Trade Centers. World Trade Center was owned by the Port Authority and leased out. And the major lease, in fact, 2 years before 9/11, the major lease was given to Silverstein Properties. So there was a huge lawsuit on that, who should get compensation for that, but that's a story for another day. This is Central Park. Yesterday in the port presentation, he talked about real estate development around the park because the price of property on this corridor is the highest. And you guys have a better idea of what numbers to get. I know one thing, I can't afford it, so I'm not even looking at per square foot on these properties. But this is prime property. Again, why do you want to go there? Because this is where you get the best view in town. This is about air quality. This is about air quality. And, Nana talked about it, about open spaces, about parks, about 233 acres. This is real life. This is real life. We've got to accept this. We all have these internal debates about, I want this, I want that. But at the end of the day, one selfish interest that every human has is, I want to live longer. And that selfishness will make you pay the extra dollar that you need to be there. Give you a view of New York City subway, massive system. This is just a map, so you get a feel for it. We've got 6,300 cars, buses 5,000, subway stations 468, bus ridership 2.5 billion, track miles 840. It's a huge system. And it's evolved over time. It is not something that was done over a day. So the LRT system on the bus rapid or the waterway is going to evolve over time, but you need to make that start. And every day that we delay, air quality gets mattered. So it's not a question, it's not a debate that you have that, when do we start? It's how soon you start. That's the debate we should have. And how fast can we get it completed? How do we get people onto it? Because remember, people were talking about in the morning, the conversations were about the lowest income group within the society. That's why it's mass transit. That's why it's mass transit. You want the masses to use it. The tough part for all of us, whether we are in New York, whether in India, or we're here, is going to get the people out of the Mercedes and the Audis into mass transit. But people who are in that level, they want mass transit. It has to happen. So if we want to make a difference in society here, and I'm looking at Colombo's population of 4 million, you making a difference on the 4 million, and here comes, next time, Lakshman, please sit that side. I'm running fast now, okay? The PATH terminal. This was built post 9/11. And my office was around 100 meters away from World Trade Center. I was there when 9/11 happened. And when we were planning about this and when we were talking to the port, I was New York City Transit, port was here, a lot of debates, how big to build, how much to spend. At the end of the day, the proof of the pudding is, if you build it, people will come. Today, this is the biggest destination. Why was it needed to be built here? There is not much ridership on the trains coming in. Lower Manhattan is where Wall Street is. After 4:30 p.m., the stock market closes. By 5:30, it's a ghost town. Now, these two buildings, this and the next one, the Fulton Street Transit Center, are anchoring the rebirth of Lower Manhattan. Now young people hang out there. They stay there longer. There's shopping. There's everything. You have footfalls. At the end of the day, it's about footfall, getting people there. If people come, money will be spent. Economy does well. Now I'm going to migrate for a second to Delhi Metro. This is, again, a new system. 1998 vintage. I worked there as part of USAID. I was a consultant there. I worked for 3 years there. One problem that they have, and I think the visuals will speak louder than words, this is the crowd trying to get into the system. Another view of it. Another view of this. Guess what? This is the biggest aircraft in the world. They had to use this to ferry their subway cars into the system because what they had done was they were under-designed. So making sure that your design is going to meet the needs of the future is very important. And, I was very scared about using these slides because, I'd get criticism. Being a consultant, you've got to be nice to every client, right? How many consultants in the room? See? And luckily for me, the day I was leaving, I landed in Delhi, and the next morning, the local newspaper had a huge article how Delhi Metro is trying to get out of this crisis. So 2 things to remember. Build for the future and make sure you do not under-design. Delhi Metro, I know he's got me on a time schedule here. The other problem that is there, you've got to start with the core. What happens is once you start expanding, you expand the metro to a certain limit. After that, it has to be commuter rail. Beyond a certain distance, it has to be heavy rail. Don't merge commuter rail with your mass transit system. Mass transit system is within the city. So let the buses or whatever system feed into the mass transit system. This is, I don't want to only criticize Delhi Metro. This was New York City Transit 1970s. You guys must have seen taking up Pelham 1, 2, 3. Not the new version with Denzel Washington, the older one. This was how New York City Transit looked. It took us a lot of money and a lot of time to get into it. The reason why I want to use this example is 1983, we started our first capital program with 200 million. By 1988, we couldn't spend 200 million. We did not. We didn't have the capabilities. We didn't have the design team. We didn't have the procurement processes in place. We didn't have contractors. We didn't have anything. So when we start the megapoly, we've got to start getting those people off the ground now. We've got to start retooling. The industry has to react to it. Because without the help of all the parties, whether they're elevator guys, escalators guys, rolling stock guys, all of them have to come together. And now there's a discussion about total ownership and how do you manage it. What we do is we have a 20-year needs program, which is revised every 5 years. 20-year needs, every 5 years, you come up with whatever is needed, and then you have a rolling program for 5-year capital program. First cost versus life cycle cost. This will be an issue. One of the reasons why Delhi Metro hasn't done well is because they went with first cost. First cost, a lot of times in technology, you will get sunset technologies. Sunset technologies cannot be sustained. There's a huge cost of getting replacements. So you've got to look at what the future is going to be, look at the sunrise technologies and invest in that. Yeah, the cost is going to be higher. Long-term first cost versus life cycle cost. And like I always say, before you shovel, think. As long as you spend, I don't think that you spend your time thinking, but you've got to put the shovel in the ground. But try to do as much work on the paper so you manage everything. So once you hit shovel, hits the ground, you get real-time information. And there's a debate about informing the public. You have to. Every project that we start on the megapoly, you've got to put in signs there. What's going on here? When it will be done? What's the completion date? Who's responsible for a problem? The outreach is very important. If you do more outreach, the ownership goes to the public. At the end of the day, like I said, the customer is the person who's going to use the system. And remember one thing, if you want to think big, the grandparents have not been born whose grandchildren are going to write the system. That should be the mantra that's behind your mind, because you're not building it for today, you're not building it for tomorrow, you're building it for the next 130 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. I think we must build for the future. Don't underestimate, don't under-design, right? We have to be customer-centric, and those are the key messages. I'll straight away now move on to Dr. Dimantha De Silva, Senior Lecturer from Department of Civil Engineering from the University of Moratuwa, and he'll be talking about Western Region Transportation Master Plan. Over to you, Dimantha. And stick to the time. Maybe you will have 1 minute more.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. So I'm just about time of noon, so I can still say good morning. So we have been listening to about the importance of transport and land use, and how what are the impacts that we need to integrate approach. So I'm not going to elaborate about that, but go more on to the plan and what made us to like what are the design concepts that we adopted. So this is a conceptual framework or the development framework that the megapolis has, which Naina had gone through. So I'm not going to go through that. Basically, it is important that the population and employment, or what the demographic is, what we know. And what we have done for the plan area is identify the population for the planning horizons. The land use is done for wider, bigger spatial areas, but the transportation is done in much smaller geographies or spatial content. So if you can look at, we have defined it to 462 zones and to identify, and then the population, what it shows is how the population actually changes based on the different time horizons. We can see based on the structure plan or development plan that the different areas are going to get developed and different people are going to be located. I want to touch a little bit on the mobility issue. We have 10 million. This is based on the Comtrans study, which is a rich database that we could use for our study as well. The 10 million passengers daily trip within CMR, 7.8 million motorized trips, 1.9 million daily passengers entering CMC. What was previously discussed with the previous presenter as well, that we have a share of about 52% of public transport. And that is, within the region, that is a good number. What we are lacking is we are losing that number, and so we have to ensure that we keep that number or improve that number. So one of the things that we checked on the behavior of people, and we wanted to see whether actually people travel on corridors. And what we saw is it's not necessary. They actually travel on radial patterns. So I want to illustrate it based on a passenger bus OD on the Galle Road. What it showed us is that the people who started from Panudura, Morotua, Katubedda, that end, by the time they came to CMC boundary, 50% had moved out of the corridor. And only 10% would continue up to Fort, their final destination. So this showed us that we want to base our analysis or our solution based on the network rather than corridors, and provide solution to connect one corridor. So will not provide the solution to the problem. Definitely it will provide a solution to people who are traveling, but not to the people to make a mode choice or mode change to go unless we give a seamless connectivity of solution for the total travel. Now, this is what we see as a total people's movement, and what we analyzed is the trip length has decreased because based on the land use plans, the development plans, people's trip lengths have decreased to go have trip patterns around their cities. But what we see is still we will have a problem because with the 1.9 million trips that's entering the CMC, it will double to 4.5 million trips. What I want to elaborate, let's take the Battaramulla corridor, we will go up to 656,000 passengers. And this is the importance of doing a network analysis rather than corridor analysis. But with the solution as well, for example, out of 656,000, example is LRT. Once we provide a solution with LRT with a 75-kilometer network, even though the network is smaller against buses, which is wider spread for a whole region, it actually caters to about 40% of the passenger trips that is on that corridor. So the evolution should also be based on the network, not just on just the overall picture, because we had based on the number of kilometers that the system has as well. The design features of the master plan was that the modes should complement each other, not compete. The new modes that we introduced. Integration of modes to provide seamless travel. So it is not just one mode, it has to have a connectivity, intermodal facilities. Selections of modes were considered with the practicality of implementation. Are we going to use a mode that will not go beyond the feasibility level? Do we have space on the roads? Do we need more acquisition to have this mode? Is the mode that we introduce is sustainable for the planning horizon? Do we have to take it out after 5 years' time? So these are the questions that we considered during our planning process. So I think this goes really connected to Mr. Ajay, what was he was saying. The planning process was to use the rail-based mass transit to provide connection to the city. So prior to the existing railway, which is a heavy railway, and then extend the modern RTAs with LRT technology to the other areas where the rail could not be extended, and also to inter-corridor connections. And I think this was touched by Nayana yesterday as well. We want to upgrade and modernize the whole total fleet of bus service, provide connection to rail-based mass transport. So we need to get the passengers from their homes to the rail stations so that they can get to their destination much faster. And also find introduction and find new modes to boost the supply. Short term, we want to optimize them and manage existing infrastructure and focus on the demand management as well. Now, what we have looked is the technologies that's available, look at the cost aspects, what are the passenger capacities. So, for example, the passenger capacities, what we have shown here is based on per lane, right? So per lane or per track. So these can be updated based on if you provide 2 lanes of tracks, the capacity increases. If you provide passing lanes on stations, then that can have higher capacities. What we looked is what is there right now in the roads based on the statistics, and then what will be there in the 2035. So we have to provide, as Mr. Ajay said, we have to provide and look at the long term when we select the solution for our problem. The transport proposal is in 4 categories: public transport improvements, road infrastructure improvements, transport demand management, environmentally sustainable transportation. I'm going to touch on the public transport more because it's the topic of our forum today. The solution is based with railway electrification and modernization. So now this is just not electrification, so we should know that. It is upgrade of stations, upgrade of communication systems, upgrades of signal systems, upgrades of the rail track. So a total new rail system has to come. And it is to provide the capacity that we need, 2 to 3 minutes headway. And that is what our needs are for the future. We have 196 kilometers of rail track with existing lines. New rail lines, Kottao-Horana, Kalaniya-Koskama have been proposed. All these information are available in our website with the transport plan, so I won't go into much detail. New rapid transit system with LRT, with 3 systems within the CBD, which has to be elevated, then move out to 4 systems along into the suburbs, which has the potential of going on ground to reduce the cost. And these are the places where the rail cannot be extended to, and also considering the continuous connection for the passengers. And also focus on the intermodal facility to provide a connection between the rapid transit system to the rail system as well. To boost the supply, we also looked at inland water transport. Potential lines were 3 lines were identified: Vallavatta-Battaramulla, which actually is a potential line because it goes through main roads: Marine Drive, Gaul Road, High Level Road, Baseline Road, Naval Road, Parliament Road. So all these roads are east-west links that can be connected with this line. Fort Union Place is another short connection that we are looking at. Also use the Kalani River, Matakuli to Hangavalla. And these need evaluation. Some of these Kalani River need, have environmental issues. We have to identify as part of the feasibilities. So bus modernization, we talked about this. We need to update the modernize the bus to higher level of service using existing services, better to door-to-door connection, access and control integration with RTS rail, and sorry about this movement. And also, it is about the revision of bus routes, modernization, and rescheduling. So we should be starting this as soon as possible. And also the connection with multimodal facilities, Fort Peta area, then sub-centers to provide connection, and to provide a public transport network to cover the whole western region, just not the corridors, but also the inter-corridors and also the CBD. What I think I want to touch more based on probably in the question session, but we want to improve the school services as well. We want to provide more services so that we can capture people who are using the private transport to go into schools, and we have already started certain programs, and then we want to start certain programs like having higher quality school bus service to attract with a reliable service with air-conditioned monitoring facilities. Road infrastructure development, we have the plan. I think the next speaker will be touching on that. And for the meantime, we had to touch base on the transport demand management. We need to go into introducing flexible staggering work hours to dampen the peak, use the enforcement efficiently using CCTV camera monitoring so that we can automate the enforcement, parking management, signal light improvements, traffic flow management centers, and eventually go to a road pricing where there are sufficient public transport improvements. We have done fair amount of analysis. We have used the transport demand model with the JICA strata model, and again, thanks to JICA with the Comtrans model that was developed this model, which allowed us to do the analysis much quicker. And these are the things that actually dampen certain projects, because you don't have the tools required to analyze your outputs. So we have done scenario analyses. We have completed modeling process, key performance indices for economic analysis. We have identified the key performances to show that the project is, public transport share is increasing, the speeds are increasing, and also done the costs and economics of the interventions. We have seen it's 11.5 billion investment over 20 years, 67% of that being invested on public transport, and also equal shares on RTS, rail, and roads. We have an implementation plan based on 6 months, 6 months to 3 years, 3 years to 5 years, and 5 years to get to where we want. So it is about implementation. We have started implementing based on these projects, the implementation plan. And mind you, the challenges we have when we come to the implementation is that it is the readily available ready to be implemented, how ready we are to implement our projects, right, our plans. Some sectors are way forward. I think a previous speaker in the previous session talked about the road sector being much way ahead, and that is true. And so we have to do due diligence and do feasibility studies on, and then do the proper way and get to those projects. So we can't actually fast track because that planning has not been done before. So in conclusion, what I want to touch, ladies and gentlemen, I have lived in a country for 11 years where the mass transport has actually is providing majority of the public transport, right? So, and I have seen how it had evolved, and I have seen how people move to those type of transportation. And we need to we reiterate the public transport intervention is a priority. A railway to carry much of the load, RTS to provide fast access to CBD and the suburbs, modernized buses to supplement with improved connection to rail and RTS stations, that is very vital, supplement with use of inland water transport. Highway improvements are needed to supplement the public transport interventions, demand management for infrastructure until the infrastructure is built. And so the short-term measures are vital to get to our goals. So I want to leave you here with a quote from Albert Einstein saying, once we accept our limits, we will go beyond them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimanta. Let's quickly move on to the last speaker, Namali Siamalapitiya, Director Planning from Road Development Authority. She will talk about the Highway Master Plan, hot off the press.
Good afternoon. before I go into the detail of road master plan, I like to give you some insight of what was the master plan available in the country before what we are talking now. In 2007 to 17, master plan has been formulated in 2006. You all know at that time we had a war. So that master plan doesn't cover the entire country, especially north and east. So after the completion of war, our victory, after the victory, so we had to cater to north and east, and we couldn't obey or work according to 2007 to 17 master plan as it was planned. Also, that master plan has not addressed so many important aspects as road safety or public transport into account in that. In that light, I like to give you some insight what we are going to do with the next master plan addressing 2017 to 2027. So this will be the outline. I'm not going to read it out. I will start from what will be the rationale. Before that, just overview of some numbers. As you know, our road network in Sri Lanka consists of 116,000 kilometers of road, from which Road Development Authority owns only national roads, which accounts 12,380. So, from this large network, Western Province has about I think you can see the percentages, how many kilometers Western Province is owing. 374 kilometers of A class, 1,224 B class. So most of our Colombo or Western roads are belongs to RDA. So rationale for this National Road Master Plan. So we have to cater to increasing traffic volume with very different mix, capacity of trunk roads, uncontrolled roadside development. Those are the challenges or the reasons to cater to. So average population density of country is about 331, whereas Western Province has about 1,652. So this gives you, the vehicle population is also, entire country you have something like very big percentages, more than 50% comprised of motorcycles and three-wheelers, and about 11% of cars. Even in 2013, although people are arguing at every moment, car population is increasing, car population of this country has not much increased from 2013 to 16. It remained as same as 11%. But when it comes to, Western Province, it is sure the car population has increased. Now, over so many years, I told you now, 2005 to 2015, that 10-year, most of the money, budgetary allocation, maybe the highest budgetary allocation has been given to Road Development Authority to improve national roads, and including the augmenting national roads with the expressway network. Everybody knows that. So I also agree with Professor Kumarage saying that we have built road, dumped money, but there was no system to evaluate the outcome. We have seen what is there and physically, but nobody has calculated the outcome of that system. So this master plan, I am trying my best to include something like key performance indicators to calculate the benefits of this road interventions or investments in near future. So I think we need to lot of things has to be done before that with the integration of lot of policies, fiscal policies, and other policies of vehicle importation to vehicle usage. So many things are there. I think today Lakshman will help me in broadening the ideas and taking those things to our masses, asking them to provide the facilities in road infrastructure to public transport as well as the safety of people. For the future, I have already written with road safety, public transport requirements, and return on investment. These key areas will be the key of next master plan. So it is not easy to introduce this. Lot of mindset is needed. I think everybody in this forum, including the audience, will help us to go with this plan. Historically, our road network or the urbanization has evolved. Nobody has planned it. But with the Western Province Megapolis Master Plan, we are trying to do something after planning. So it is very good, I think, step forward. But any plan cannot be taken up without necessary policy instruments. I think transport policy, we don't have transport policy abide by everybody. So it is a must to come. Again, land use policy, fiscal policy and tax regimes, legal framework to do all these things. So, as I mentioned earlier, this Western Province vehicle population, you can see we have 19% of motor cars, whereas motorcycle and three-wheelers comes up more than 60%. So that is the target, I think, target customer group for us to convert to public transport. We have to give due place for three-wheelers and motorcycles. They should not travel along our trunk roads or main roads. They should be the feeders of our road system. So I think with the Western Province Megapolis Master Plan in place, due recognition will be given to these aspects. How we can reduce the unnecessary kilometers of three-wheelers and motorcycles. If you look at the passenger trips by mode, still we have about 46% of public transport. So this is a good place to start. We should not allow this to go down. When we come to CMC boundary, you can see car population is increasing. Share of cars are increasing to 19% at Western Province and 29% at CMC boundary. It means urbanization is a car ownership rises with the urbanization. So objectives of next National Road Master Plan is to promote economic development of the country, facilitate high mobility, reduce travel time, cost, and improve accessibility, and to meet current and expected future transport needs, and to build cost-effective infrastructure element with improved safety. I think you might question me whether we are doing so, whether our infrastructure is cost-effective or we are giving the adequate safety for the people. That is questionable. Yes, we have to accept the fact that over the last 10 years or so, we couldn't give due recognition to these factors. But time to come, from 2017, we are trying our level best to include these things into the master plan, get it approved, and ask everybody to abide with that. It may not be possible for anybody to deviate from it. Okay. I will come to the last one then. Western Province Megapolis region has identified, not identified, actually recognized some of the road projects already in line or in the pipeline. These are OCH Phase 2, Marine Drive Extension, Baseline Extension, ports, to connect Port City to other network, new bridge construction project over Kalani River, elevated highway project. I know that we cannot deviate from these already planned projects. Therefore, we had to propose Western Region Megapolis plan to include these as part of road development projects. This is the proposed elevated road network. So, as you all are aware, Kalani Bridge will be widened with new capacity. To connect that one, we will have an elevated road to port side and to Bataramula side. The port side one is a must because as numbers are,
Excuse
port
me,
city
Amali,
numbers.
I think let's stop in the interest
Yeah.
of time, and then we will discuss some of the points of the panel discussion, because I think it's
sure.
interest
Because
lot of
actually this was not in my presentation. Request of Lakshman, I had to add something related
Okay,
to.
let's discuss.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there is one thing that we all, thank you, Namali. Right. If there is one thing that we all Sri Lankans agree, irrespective of any political difference, is that our public transport system needs a serious overhaul, right? And we also learned from the speakers that especially in Hong Kong, the ridership is very high, 90% in public transport, and Sri Lanka is fairly high when compared to other countries, but unfortunately it's going down. Now, this question is for Dorothy. I mean, how did Hong Kong get to this where you all are now? And that, so that we can take learnings from that. And then I will put question to the rest of the audience as well.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, actually, I must say that when I was working in the transport department in Hong Kong for the past 30 years, it was a struggle between the 1970s and the 1990s to do that. Up until 1998, we always have a peak hour problem. People were queuing up, complaints. But after 1998, the problem was gone. So when you do a survey among Hong Kong people before 1998, they said the top 3 problems, one of it is transport. After that, it is education and housing. So what I mean is that you need a master plan. And based on that master plan, there are some basic principles. I repeat the 3 principles, which I think work for every city. You have to continue to improve your road infrastructure, your public transport capacity, but you need to encourage economic road users. That is, you have to give priority to those buses and trains that can move the largest number of people. Now, in Hong Kong, we use double-deckers. There are 140 passengers per bus. And our private car, on average, they carry 2 passengers, and 3 private cars occupy the same road space as a double-decker. So we have not been very successful in providing elaborate bus rapid transit system, but we have bus-only lanes. But our urban center is very congested. We don't have wide roads with dual 4 carriageway, dual 5 carriageway. We're dual 3 operation, but we managed. And the thing that to watch is that we have to make our public transport system affordable. If the fares are very high, people will evaluate the options, then they would not. They may do other public transport services. They might not choose to do that. But then you ask me the question, then do you subsidize heavily? My answer is we do not provide subsidy at all. They're operating on a self-finance basis, and they also compete. We have 5 franchise bus companies in Hong Kong, and they have to compete. But we provide the level playing field, but as officers in the transport department, we demand an annual route development plan so that we do not want wasteful and harmful competition, but network. I think we repeatedly mentioned network. If you find that your journey is convenient, I can get out from home, I can get onto a minibus, and that minibus took me to a railway station. I don't need my car, and from the railway, it's 3 minutes per station in a Hong Kong case. So if you travel 5 stations, it's 50 minutes, you will be on spot on your destination. So that's how we operate. But we do have a peak hour problem now with our railway. It's always very costly to try to cater for the peak of the peak 50 minutes. So I heard talking about flexi time, how we can spread the travel. But we do make some mistake when we talk about flexi time. We said if you travel on our railway between 7:45 and 8:15, you have to pay a higher fare. So everybody screamed that you are punishing us, you raise the fares. So we said that now we have to do it on the reverse. That means if you do not travel during that period, we give you a discount. It's actually the same thing, but it's the way that you expressed. And you do have a lot of public comments and criticisms, but don't be offensive. They are for good intention. And if you listen, you start planning and work hand in hand. And if the community is convinced, like what we do, that public transport should receive priority, then it's already, a good job done. And that's why I mentioned white paper.
Okay.
Before we have a white paper, before we sort of have this megapolis plan for the Western Colombo region, we present a plan, we do a green paper, and we ask everybody, including academics, professionals, politicians, the community, the users, is that what you think should help Hong Kong moving? And they don't disagree. They said, we understand, we have to do it. But you better do it fast, and you better do it logically so that during the process of change, you reduce the pain. It's actually painful. Every new scheme we introduce, for the first 2 weeks, a lot of complaints, fine-tuning and adjustment, and we have to overcome that. So we have advisory committees, we have district advisory committees, and we bring them together. So maybe I can stop here, Gayani.
Okay. Thank you, Dorothy. I think, Professor Kumarage, you're a strong advocate of public transport. Now, you also mentioned that the public transport utilization is coming down. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, the public
Sorry, Dorothy, I think this question
sorry.
is for Professor Kumarage.
I like to comment on my own comment.
No, in general.
Okay.
In general.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge for public transport has been there in every country, and I think Hong Kong and Singapore, were back in the 70s, decided to go almost in an opposite direction to what other East Asian countries did. And I think it has been proven that they chose the right way. Others have very expensive elevated expressways and so on, even metro systems that are actually not pulling their weight, and they are turning around now. So I think paradigm changes are what actually makes public transport successful. We've seen that around the world. London did it, and I was talking to Ajay, and I think many cities in the US are doing it now. Then South America, we have so many good examples coming from the last 2 decades. So I think Colombo needs to discover its own unique blend of what we need to do for public transport. And there is a comment there, I might as well take that up, which says, why am I advocating buses over LRT? Now, I'm not putting down LRT. What I'm saying is we have nearly 50% of the people on buses right now. We need a solution in 2 to 3 years. We need to manage the road space to accommodate the new economic activity that Colombo and the environments. And the best way to get that is actually to revitalize the buses. That is, the network is there, and that will take. And then the demand management, like even tolling and things like that, or whatever other measures we have for traffic restraint, can be put in there. LRT is good, and we will need that kind of mass rapid transit definitely over the next 10, maybe 20 years. There's no question about that. It is when and it is where. That's the only thing. Front end in that, I think we are putting a lot of money into something that will take a lot of time to deliver, and it will deliver at enormous cost to a very small fraction of the ridership. So it's a matter of prioritizing, and I think to get out of this situation very quickly, see our bus system, whatever we talk about it in terms of its negatives, it's a $500 million industry, and it doesn't receive any subsidy, okay? It's affordable to people, and it works. Okay? It may be not what the car user likes or even the bus user likes, but it is there to improve. So I think that building block needs to be taken up and
Okay. So, Dimanda, now we have a grand plan as part of Megapolis, right? We must think big, right? But we need to have quick wins. We have to move fast. Now, especially in terms of, because as part of your Megapolis plan, you have a bus improvement plan as well. So, could you please elaborate on the journey? Because it's a journey, it's a long journey. We have to think long term, like Ajay mentioned. Okay. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I totally agree that we need to, and our plan has the improvements on the buses. It's about how we do it, and do we do it for the whole bus systems, or do we find separate corridors to improve? And what is the capacity that we are going to increase by doing it? And do we have space to do it, right? So definitely the bus passengers are vital, because the railway, we need to connect all this mass transport with buses. Definitely, we have to do that. But the key is the bus passengers has to, like the passengers, along the corridors, they should be in shorter distances, stops, so that people can be accommodated and get into the buses and get to the rail stations. So the plan looks at the remodernization of the total buses, and I think it will need subsidy. The buses will need subsidy, and there in certain rate there is a subsidy with the tax concessions that's given for importation of buses and so on. And so same policies has to be updated, but then used, and then we have to upgrade the total experience of buses. If you look at the buses right now, you take the Tata or the Leyland buses that's there. Those are not passenger buses. Those are all we call it lorry chassis with it is not for the passenger movement. And if you have used a bus that's going on the expressway and that is on the public buses system on local roads, you would see how different the feeling is. Right? So that's why we have to upgrade it, get to a situation where the people have the quality of transportation through buses to get there. So that is something that we are going to work on, and we have already started negotiation with the talks with the Western Province Transport Authority, CTB, NTC, to use the bus system, expand the bus system, and use the expressways to have a better mobility with the centers, and also to go to this bus modernization with incorporating the existing bus users. We have to think about and I think what Professor Kumarage mentioned was about the Sahasara. And it is a great concept. And I think this is Sahasara, even it is said as a prepaid car system. It is another way of restructuring the buses. And this has been tried in the Western region for so long, and it is another way of doing the restructuring, creating cluster companies. So I think we have to use it, and that is what the Western Province Transport Authority is going to look at. And these are the ideas that we want to incorporate. And we want to get the line agencies to look into this. And this is definitely a short-term solution that we are looking into.
Okay. I think Ruan and Ito was very quiet, so I'll put this question to Ruan now. Sri Lanka aspires to become a logistics hub. Now, with Megapolis and Port City kicking in, how will that going to help and add to the congestion as well? So, as from the industry, how do you think that you need this new plan should kick off so that it will help the industry as well?
Yeah,
with the government's aspiration of becoming a dynamic logistics hub, I think I fully agree with something that Dr. Kumarage said. It's about how it should be output driven. It's not about having a great port or an airport. Making Sri Lanka a logistics hub, it's all about connectivity. You need to be able to connect these ports and airports I noticed in the megapolis plan there are the cargo corridors and logistics centers and all that been drawn out. Now, when you talk of connectivity, there's one positive thing that has happened during the last 2 or 3 years. That's the setting up of free zones in the country. We have our inherent limitations. We are a small country, a small domestic market. We don't have large manufacturers here. So you need to attract cargoes from various countries into Sri Lanka to value add. So you need to be able to connect goods between airports and ports. Freight movements become very important. One thing is about sustainability, something that we always talk about, the quality of the hardware, the trucks and all that type of thing. We have very poor quality trucks and much to be desired. So that adds on to cost.
Okay.
Being in the private sector, running a large logistics company, what our customers want is speed to market. It's always speed to market. If someone is delivering within 5 days, they want to make it 2 days. If they are delivering in 2 weeks, they want to make it 1 week. So we are challenged to deliver to market as within the shortest possible time. So we have to have these transport corridors. It's all about speed. It's all about cost. So we have to have these designated transport corridors to ensure that we achieve speed, and we need to have the connectivity in terms of technology. One thing that we are advocating is to have integrated IT community system, a single window system to integrate all stakeholders. Here we see people running between ports, airports, authorities. I mean, that all adds to cost. You need to minimize human intervention. Just to move a shipment, how many times we would have to run to customs or whatever authority that it involves is huge, and that adds on to cost. And we're not the cheapest in terms of transactions. So it is important to that technology integration is also important, which will help congestion. So these are some of the things that we need to look at. Then more futuristic are things like e-commerce coming into play. It happens big time in the West. It's bursting at its seams in India and China. So the parcel sizes are getting smaller. There are more deliveries, and the parcel sizes will only get smaller. So you will have more movements. So we need to be ready to cater for that. So these are some of the new things, and some of the distractions that you might have to take into consideration are these concepts like Uber, which I don't in any way think that these are substitutes, but these will distract to some extent. And perhaps Uberization of cargo movements might happen. So these are some very new distractions that will kind of perhaps change the dynamics.
Okay, so coming back to Dimanta once again, now as part of your megapolis plan, you also talk about to improve sustainability and also to decongestion on the roads. You also talk about certain flexi hours and all that, which will certainly help the industry to decongest the roads. So would you like to talk a bit about that as to how this will really help, and then what would be the reaction from the private sector or the government sector for that matter, in implementing such measures and practicality of that as well? Yeah, Dimantha, over to you
Yeah,
first.
the flexi hours, the suggestion has been there. It's not a new concept. The flexi hour, there have been kind of reports written about it, studies about it, and it is about the implementation. So in our case, it is we have to go from the studies to the implementation, and that is what we have done. And if I elaborate on what's flexi hours, we can flexi hours or flexible work times can be based on 4 areas. One is you have a fixed time of core time that workers would should be there at work. And then you have a flexible time. Someone can start at 10 o'clock, finish at 6 o'clock, or someone can start at 7 o'clock and finish at 3 o'clock. So given the same 8-hour time frame. But what that allows is we are going to dampen the peak period right now. The peak period, then we can, it's spread. We call it peak spreading. So when peak spreading happens, it actually allows to marginally decrease the demand for the peak times. And also it allows, now you can see the buses are competing for this peak time. And that would allow to rescheduling so that the peak time is given for the buses as well. And the second concept is you can have a compressed week, where compressed week is instead of 5 working days, you can have 10-hour working hours for 4 days. That is another concept. Another concept is work from home. And then another concept is part-time work or shift work. So what we want to start with the mega policy, starting with the flexi hours, flexible work times. And then we have engaged with the Chamber of Commerce, and we have a very positive response from the Chamber saying that certain private companies already implement it. And mind you, we can't do it for all the sectors. It has to be selected based on certain management levels, certain industries. So and the government sector also should be participating in it. So that will be a short-term solution for that.
Okay, the one thing that really caught my attention, Ajay, what you specifically spoke about the seamless connectivity to get a pleasurable experience, because mobility is something that we need to really look at. So how do you really do that? Because you have to, think of the customer. Customer is king, and whatever that really make him or her really happy is going to what really going to win at the end of the day.
First and foremost, I didn't say customer's king. I've got 2 ladies here, 3 ladies. Customer's queen. Okay, so I stand politically corrected. More importantly, seamless. You cannot change the modes. Modes will stay as it is. And Hong Kong's got the octopus card. We have the metro card. So we've got different modes, except the experience of the customer, which is the riding public here. That should be seamless. How does it do it? By smart ticketing. So you have one ticketing system across different modes. And at the end of the day, there is a central bank which basically divvies up depending upon what rides you've had, and the money goes to the different agencies. That is the only way you do it. But luckily, and I say I'm not putting anyone down here, but you are starting from scratch. This is what's happening in the past. Here, you've got to also link it to heavy rail. Because, Sri Lanka, heavy rail has to be utilized. I looked at electrification, distances. You've got a compact country. And what you need to do is re-densify your CBDs, think into account what's happening with technology where people are going to be working more from home. That's reality, it's going to come. So take that into account, take the smart ticketing to account, make the seamless connectivity. So if I'm living in Kandy, I come into the city only 3 days a week, because that's all I needed. Everything else I can take care of sitting at home in Kandy, because I have great internet connectivity. And I can have online meetings I can have, all of that's happening. So 3 days a week, I don't need to come here and buy another ticket for the LRT system. My train system should be able to give me a ticket included with whatever rides I need in the LRT system. That's the seamless connectivity I'm talking about. One more thing I want to address, because I'm hearing it a lot, about the quality of buses, and you're absolutely right, the quality of buses need to be improved. They are not buses, they are truck chassis where a bus body has been built on it. When the LRT system's gonna come, the experience of the commuter on the LRT is gonna be so good that he or she is gonna demand the same service on the buses. So while we are planning to the LRT system, we need to start planning on the bus systems also. The bus, at the end of the day, all systems will be dependent upon each other. So if I have a LRT and I'm going to move 800 people every 2 minutes, I need buses to feed into my system. I need buses to take people out from the system. Over time, one of the things that we have such huge ridership in New York City Transit is that for 2 hours, if you take a bus, you buy one ticket, a Metro card ticket on a bus system, for the next 2 hours, you've got free interchange from the bus system onto the train system, on the metro system or the LRT system, and vice versa. So both systems will be feeding off each other. At the end of the day, we've got to focus on one thing itself. It's the experience of the customer. How do we make the customer happy? Right now, we are looking at numbers of 50% mass transit, but 50%, I think, mostly are buses. We've got a rail system that is totally underutilized. A rail system that was, going back to your numbers, 1952, it was one of the best systems that we had. We've got to bring that to a state of good repair. We've got to get our buses to a state of good repair. We're going to have a brand new LRT system. Brand new LRT system with a state of good repair for these two systems, this is going to be heaven. And at the end of the day, the more choices is going to be done by the people who are going to ride the system. If we give them the right solutions, they will not use the car. Staying one more minute on this. Bloomberg, who was the mayor from New York, worth at least $10–15 billion. He had his own retinue of these black heavy-duty Chevy Armada cars. Never used it. You could see him on the morning 1 and 9 going from his house into his office on New York City. Every morning, you saw him in the morning and the evening. He took mass transit because it made sense. At the end of the day, for any business person, time is money. Yeah. If I'm going to waste 20 minutes sitting there and doing nothing, I'm going to use mass transit and move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. Emily, would you like to? Yeah.
There were several questions aiming at RDA. I like to pick only one question considering the time. There was a question that why RDA is abiding with their existing plans and why can't we work together with other plans as abiding to one plan. So I must say that as planners, we are very like to do some kind of that plan, work together with all other ministries and have one plan for the benefit of the country. But problem is our government system or ministerial setup fragmented to pieces, especially transport and highways are two ministries. So it is very difficult for us to come into one plan, agree into one plan at many occasions. I think this is a matter of urgency to discuss with the government when they are dividing or allocating ministries. We have to think about the functionalities of those ministries. Now it is a very difficult task for us to handle transport-related issues as highways is coming under some other ministry. So, sorry, I am not in a position to promise you that RDA can abide with the total plan under these circumstances.
Thank you, Namali. I think I would now pose this question to Ito because he's been very quiet for some time. Hitachi is known to be last conference also representative was there from Hitachi, known for monorail. But I think, do you think Hitachi can provide the solution that the Megapolis transportation plan is offering?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Well, there are some questions raised from the audience as well about our proposal for monorail and our what happened to be the plan for LRT. And then I would like to explain a little bit about the background. As Mr. Ajay Singh rightly mentioned, it is quite right to, it is not correct to underestimate the traffic demand. Otherwise, it's going to be miserable at the end of the day. So that the plan has been changed from serving single corridor from central Colombo to Malabar, to the extensive network of 75 kilometers of LRT. Then, in that sense, the megapolis planning team has increased the estimate demand from the JICA study of about the 20,000 to 30,000 ppHPD, passenger per hour per direction, which means the system has to be bigger. However, the monorail system is very good in terms of carrying a big capacity with a minimum investment. But within this 75 kilometers of total system, it's a mixture of the on-ground system and elevated system. And that planning team desire to have a single technology to serve this entire network, which means monorail cannot serve the on-ground corridors. It has no meaning. Then it has to be the steel wheel technology. And 30,000, on the other hand, is good enough to be the full-scale MRTS, as Mr. Ajay rightly mentioned. However, the land required, for the MRTS is huge. Then there is a limitation of land in the very narrow space in the central Colombo, that the system has to go through, maneuver through very narrow corridor. This is the benefit, advantage of LRT system. So combine all these together, LRT will be the best solution. And Hitachi is is the only company, at least in Japan, who has the capability to deliver European-based system and also Japanese-based system, because Hitachi has acquired major 2 European companies these days. Last year, we announced the full acquisition of a company now called Hitachi Rail Italy. Answered Breda historically.
Yeah, thank you too. I think we haven't finalized the awarding of the contract as yet.
Yeah,
So
that's the basement, that's the background. We are able to deliver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Dimanta, there is audience question. Do we have a 20-year rolling plan revised every 5 years as Ajay suggested as part of the Megapolis plan? Would you like to comment on that?
Which question is the 5-year?
Yeah, rolling basis like what Ajay suggested.
Yeah, I think no. We the master plan. The master plans needs to be revised as it goes along, right?
Yes.
As it goes along. So master plan, we don't have right now a 5-year plan. After 5-year plan, so that is part. What is the master plans are? Master plan is go for long term, planning. But then this has to be revised as it goes. Yeah. Okay. And I want to touch base on one thing, if I can get 1 minute on. I think Mrs. Siamala talked about the roads and how RDA why you are not planning together. I think we have been this planning process, or the Megapolis plan, has been a collaborative effort with all the ministries. So the 6 months period, we have been meeting every month, every week, including the core team of transportation engineers with the CMC, RDA, Ministry of Transport, NTC, Western Province Transport Authority, 30 stakeholders, to get their inputs, what their current plans are. And so we have taken what the RDA plans were and ongoing projects were, and then revise some of them. For example, there was elevated road along the baseline road. So that is not in our plan. So because we want to prioritize to have it on for the LRT system. So similarly, so basically we have taken the line agencies' plans into consideration when we develop the plans. The second one I want to show is the working. I saw a question about why do we want to enforce, is the government trying to enforce the working times now? No, it is about choices. Like, people should be given choices, and again, here it's a choice. It's not enforcing that you work 10-hour shifts, or it is you should work on these flexible hours. It's a choice that a person can take. And if you can take, there are a majority of people who would want to come. I want to touch this if I can get time on the school services, right?
Quick one, because I have another question before
so,
we close.
Because I have
1 minute,
seen where the people loitering around the schools, right? People drop students to school and just don't go to work just because the works doesn't start until 8:30, right? So these kind of people can actually go start their work early and leave early. So these are the options people should have, and for the people to make the choice rather than enforcement.
Yeah. I think public perceive, normally this question is for you, public perceive that highways are not meant to be for public transport, So how can you really make use, because existing infrastructure is available now, to ease off the traffic congestion, how can we use that and maybe make buses suitable to drive on those?
Actually, I have to accept the fact that most of our new rehabilitation have not looked into this. But as I said, next master plan will address this issue seriously, and we are trying our level best to accommodate public transport facilities as well as road safety into road rehabilitation programs when they are doing capacity increments or widening such cases. As Dr. Dimantha mentions, also there are plans to include public transport facilitation, at least at intersections in the new expressway network to come. We have lost not many chances in previously developed expressway network, although earlier we have calculated all development benefits and regional benefits, facilitating this and that during the formulation stage. During the construction, due to so many other reasons beyond our control, has restricted us of doing so. As an example, none of these existing expressways interchanges doesn't have bus terminals. They are not facilitating bus movements. So seriously, this will be looked after in next few expressways in line. Thank you.
I think in the interest of time, I think we need to stop now. Thank you very much, all of you, for being a very wonderful panel. But unfortunately, there were lots of questions. We were not able to answer all of it. Public transport is a priority. We all know that. And Megapolis has grand plans. I think our responsibility is we need to support this initiative. It is long term, but we need to have quick wins so that we get confidence that this plan will be a reality. So strategy has to be executed. It's not going to be a bed of roses, and we need to have confidence and have some patience to make it happen. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Namali said, she said that transportation and highways should be one. There's no rationale to divorce them. But why highways and higher education together? I think there's two solid reasons for that our government has paid attention to. First, if you take the first four letters of both words, higher and highways, they are common. I believe that is the first rationale. The second is, if you take our highways, students of higher education institutions, half the time they spend on highways protesting. So they are great stakeholders. So I think that is the reason why higher education and highways have been taken under same ministry. So ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a 45 minutes break. So please be back on time. We are like Emirates Airlines, whether you are here or not, we start. Okay. Uh, okay, once again, thank you so much. We had a wonderful panel discussion, and we have two people from private sector relating to transportation. One is a transportation user, one, then the transportation service provider, system provider. Then we have one, two, okay, we have three academics, and out of that, all three academics have extensive experience in industry of regulatory bodies. And then we have Ajay, who brought in very valuable 30-year experience. So he has 30 years of experience in New Jersey, New York transit system, which he started when he was, he started his work when he was about 15 years old. 14, yeah, sorry, I completely forgot that. So I think we had a nice mix of, experts in the panel, so which is vital for us to bring multiple perspectives and learning experiences. If you take transportation, there's one thing very clear, there's no one single answer. Okay, number two, its system has to be integrated. Number three, which I'm not sure whether Megapolis has paid enough attention, customer and the change in social trends in the country. So with that, once again, and Gani, the logistics and transportation expert, supply chain expert, so has been quite closely working with logistics and transportation community. Once again, it was wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much, and ladies and gentlemen, before we wind up for lunch, put your hands together once again and thank our speakers. Thanks, Amma.